welcome back to episode 3 of my make believe video series where I believe that I can make something be make something out of this, and I really hope it does. Today's breakdown, episode 3, um, is tackling the idea of how are hyper successful creative people, especially in filmmaking, successful. So I'll use Obsession as an example. I mean, Curry Barker has been working at this for years. I mean, with him and Cooper, it was really a hand in hand situation where they were really kind of dialed in and they really wanted to get something done. That's why they dropped out of film school. And I think it takes a sort of dedication because they kind of just went in there. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to just say, "Hey, I'm, you know, dropping out of film school." And I'm not sure what his dad wanted for him because I know his dad was a screenwriter, so it's a little different. I mean, you have different situations and different expectations and different desires, and that's what I'm trying to tackle right now. Like, I want to make short films. I want to be something that can make something so poignant that it can make someone think after the fact. I mean that's what makes a great film in my opinion, where you sit down either with yourself and self-reflect, or you talk with others and talk about how much that film not necessarily changed you, but how much that film left an impact after the fact. Like Obsession, for me personally, it was one of those horror films where it was like, well, it's in the category of horror, but it's the first time where it's like, well, man, I could relate to every single one of the characters because you can take one character flaw from each of the characters. So Nikki, Bear, Ian, and Sarah, you can take all of their character traits and you can nitpick at least one. Take at least one from each of them and apply it to your own life to a certain extent. I mean, it's not word for word. I'm not saying that you want to, make a wish for a girl to love you more than anything in the world, but I think that's true to a certain standard. I think especially people my age, they want love and they also want love reciprocated. It's not like they just want to put a million and one effort into one thing and not receive it back. I mean, that's just such an empty deal for not just people my age, but for everyone. I mean, if you put a million 1% and you don't get an outcome, it's not very fulfilling. And that's also another topic of why I think that hyper successful people are hyper successful, because they understand that failure is part of the process. You must fail in order to really, number one, find yourself, but also find your process. Every artist has a different process in a different way of making things and different ways of kind of creating things. And I think that no one person on earth has the same way of thinking. Everyone thinks differently. And you might be thinking the same things, but no one thinks completely the same. So it goes the same for, it's like, well, these hyper creative, hyper successful people became became successful just because they were dedicated to their craft, and that's what I'm kind of shooting for. Like, I really want to be dedicated to my craft. I really want to make something out of this, and you know, I'm not willing to accept that it's not going to be reality. I mean, I know it's kind of silly to say this now, but I want to make my dreams a reality, and I think this time of my life I have the opportunity to do that. I mean, I think it's kind of hard for some people to kind of understand that, man, I had these dreams, especially if you're older. If you're in your 50s and you're like, wow, I wish I did this and I wish I did that. Well, I want to be older when I grow up now to be like, well, I don't regret this. I don't regret that, because a lot of people who are, I guess, a little bit emotionally maturer than others, they can realize that a lot of these experiences that were beneficial and also not as beneficial, everything happened for a reason. I mean, like, I'm watching these films. I just watched American Fiction. I thought that was a crazy movie. I mean, it kind of threw me for a loop halfway through, and his sister died at the beginning, and I was like, where are they going with this? That's what I think is beautiful. Every single creative has a different way of writing and ideating and creating ideas, and the way they can kind of put it on paper and then put it on camera. I mean, it's such a beautiful process. I think it's a not even an underappreciated art. I just think that everyday people, can't, I guess, acknowledge the beauty of that. And it's not that they're like stupid or I'm saying that they just can't comprehend, but I'm just saying that sometimes you got to go to a deeper level than just watching a movie. I mean, call me crazy, but I think that breaking down and going into a deep dive and having a deep amount of thought after you watch a movie, poignant or not, is valuable to learning information. I think that a lot of creative people, what they did, my light just died. Um, a lot of creative people, what their goal was to do was to create something, and because of that creativeness, they learn to persevere and learn from their mistakes. I think I struggle with that a lot because I just want it to be perfect every single time, and I know that's not my reality. Like it's not gonna come true the first time I do it, and I have this picture in my head, and I know it's not true. That I want just this one thing to be true. Can this one thing be true? Can I make this a reality? Please make this a reality. And it's like so tricky because I have to balance that, and then I also have to focus on like, oh my gosh, I have to worry about school, and it's like, well, if this doesn't work out, I might have a backup plan, but I don't want anything else to be my backup plan. I want this to be my plan. And I guess like retrospect, it's not very wise to do that, but I mean, I really want to dig deep. I mean, I think that I said earlier, episode 0, I said that self belief is the most important thing. It's the most important thing to have. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm arrogant or cocky, but I believe in myself that I can make great things. Like I can create beautiful things. And I hope it's true. I hope it's true, but you know, I'm it's a little I don't know if this is a harmful mindset, but I don't care if I fail, and if I end up at, when I'm in my 50s and I have no one who really cares about me and I'm broke, I would still value that much more than me being like a doctor, for example, and, having a loving family. And there's nothing wrong with having a loving family, but I really want to make something that can impact people to a further extent. Obsession really changed me. And I've never said that about a movie because I was not very thoughtful or mindful that a movie could change you. There were plenty of movies I watched before that were like good. I was like, wow, I really like movies. But Obsession made me love movies. It made me love movies for the sole reason that a movie can make you feel something to the point where you ponder afterwards. And I pondered for a whole month. Not just about the fact that Indy Navarrete is an extremely attractive female, but about the fact that on a $750,000 budget, it was so meticulously planned out, and between Rock Burwell with the score and the sound design and everything, because I know you could kind of tell art is created when the director or the screenwriter or whatever puts their heart and soul into the movie. I mean, Endgame was great and all, but it was kind of corporate slop. It's just something so that Disney can just sell another thing where it's like, well, yeah, maybe the people are fed up with seeing Star Wars and Marvel and Disney all the time. And I think that Obsession was a refresher, and I gotta be honest with myself. I don't think I would create anything as good as Obsession. Obsession is literally my number one favorite movie now. I promoted it. I mean, Whiplash was there too. And those were both short films. Well, I mean, Whiplash was started as a short film and got the funding, but it's like, well, Curry Barker was so dedicated, he posted stuff on YouTube and it got recognition. Well, I really want that to become my reality. I mean, I want my dreams to become reality, and I hope that the people around me are willing to support me as much as I believe in this. Because I believe a lot in this, and I don't want to let it go. I want to chase it like fire burns, quick, for a long time. And like, there's some days where I feel like the fuel is running out, but it's like, well, I have to stoke the fire. I have to stay disciplined and persistent. And I have to really treat this not just like a hobby, not just like a passion, but something I'm pouring my heart and soul into. And so what if people don't really like it, or so what it doesn't get the recognition that I thought it deserved? I mean, at least I'm creating art because even making these videos is helpful for me because I'm practicing my, I guess, camera shyness, getting over it. And also, in the same way, it's like, well, I haven't really posted it to anyone, but I wouldn't want to even give a shit about what other people thought because their opinions are stupid. A lot of people's opinions on the internet are just rambling about how bad their life is and they just want to put it out to other people. I think the reality is that life is just difficult to begin with. It's a constant struggle, and it's unfortunate because not everyone can be lucky enough to be put in a situation where, they can wake up in the morning and not worry about if they have enough water to drink or if they have enough food in the fridge or even if they have a fridge at all. I mean, I think that it's kind of hard for people like me to take it for granted just because it seems like such a common necessity and it just seems so normal to us. But if you go to a lot of African countries, they might have the infrastructure, but not a lot of people can pay for it. The majority are living in poverty, which is just, it's really sad. It's sad to see just because, like, we're all people. And I think that every person deserves a chance, but it's like, well, what I'm trying to accomplish with filmmaking, I want to make something so poignant. I want to make something so significant that it can change the way a person thinks. I think that Curry Barker intended it to be poignant because he was targeting what Gen Z's problems really are. I mean, I think that Gen Z has a lot of problems with trust and abusive relationships and hookup culture and all this. And it's not to judge or knock on any of these things. And I think that, in my opinion, some of this stuff is bad. I think it's just kind of bad. But I think that Curry Barker kept it in mind, but I don't think he could have predicted or um, kind of tracked how successful it's going to be just because of the relatability of it. I mean, at least for me, there were certain tones in the movie that were so relatable, or I kind of felt cringe when a moment happened, or I just felt so bad for Nikki. And it's kind of like, well, at the same time, I felt bad for Nikki the whole movie, but I also was feeling bad for Bear because there's a part of me where it's like, well, there's been a day where it's like, why can't a girl just show up in my life and just love me more than anything? And like if I was scrolling on TikTok and I'm typing in the comments and people are like, Bear's a bad person, I would like that comment. But at the same time, I'm liking that comment when I'm the same person. Not necessarily to that extent, but there's a part of me where it's like, well, I've kind of asked for it even without a One Wish Willow. It's a little tricky. It doesn't sit with me right. I mean, after I finished watching Obsession for the first time, I was pondering for like hours. And then the next morning I woke up and I pondered again. I want to make a movie like that where it can get people, cuz TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts is the future. The information spreads the most on there. So how can I make a poignant movie where it can, not even about the money. How can I make a poignant movie? How can I? I have to tackle what Gen Z struggles with the most and maybe what Gen Z fears the most. And it's not those like baseline things about like unemployment or the housing market or something like that. Like we can't afford to have kids, we can't afford to buy a house. Like that is a problem. But I want to tackle maybe what Gen Z is struggling with, but also what Gen Z is feeling. I think there's a lot of anxiety with Gen Z, but they don't really, there's not like one type of anxiety. There's a bunch of different anxieties going around where it's like, well, I have this anxiety for this, but I also have anxiety for this and this and this. Like there's multiple anxieties going on. And like I feel like in this day and age, as a person who is Gen Z, I think it's very stressful. There's a lot of expectations held on us, but also it's like, well, it depends how it's up to you. Like I can't find the word. I can't find the word. But I'm saying that I think in order to create a poignant movie that Curry Barker did, you first have to tackle what Gen Z feels the most. In my experience, I think Gen Z feels pain, depression, anxiety, stress, and I don't know if I said suffering. And I'm not talking about like suffering in terms of like bondage and slavery, whatever. I'm talking about mental suffering. I think that we kind of trap ourselves in a prison in our own mind where we want to limit ourselves to certain things in order to either protect ourselves. And I think it's human instinct to fight or flight. Like you gotta either fight or run away. And that's human instinct. It's not like you can be blaming anyone for that because it's just kind of stupid if you do. But I'm saying like, man, how can you really understand what's going on, and how can you really fulfill what your goal is? Like, I want to make short films, I want to make feature films, and I want to make all of them poignant. And so, what if they're horrors, thrillers, or action movies or something like that? Because I just want to make. End of the day. I think that's my 2 cents for today. I'm literally just rambling, and if this ever gets posted, people will probably think I'm crazy, which is okay, because there's plenty of artists and people who are creative who've been called crazy. But, if this ever gets posted, please clown me in the comments. Please make fun of me, because I think that's the best way I can learn from your feedback. And this is kind of good for me to vent also. I mean, I have aspirations, but I also have people who expect things from me, and it's not necessarily what I want to do. So that's my 2 cents. I think my closing remark is to not let other people define who you can be. And it's also about the self belief. You have to believe in yourself to a certain extent, where it's like, I'm not going to let you define how I'm going to live my life. I'm going to define how I'm going to live my life, and you can't tell me two things to change that. I wouldn't give a shit what they said. I think anxiety is so high in Gen Z because everyone's giving a shit about what everyone's thinking, and it's looks maxing. I gotta look the best for this person. Well, number one, you gotta tackle the idea. Who are you looks maxing for? If you're looks maxing for people on the internet, yeah, that's great and all, but it won't boost your self esteem. It'll just make you feel, oh, am I getting enough validation and support from these people because I'm looks maxing and I look good on the internet? Well, you can look good on the internet and you can appear to be a very good person on the internet, but on the inside, you'll be struggling all the time. That's why a lot of people struggle with their mental health. And I see these. I thought it was funny. Megan Fox was struggling with her mental health, and people were making fun of her because they were like, well, that's all right because she's pretty, so she gets away with it, or something like that. I mean, mental health is a problem for everybody. And I don't think that people should be making fun of Megan Fox just because she's pretty and that her mental health is probably make believe that she's making up. No. I think anxiety is normal in us as humans, but I think that it's just heightened today because everyone's constantly thinking about how they look and how they should look, and oh, is my hair the right way? Am I dressing the right way? Do I got to look good for this person? I want to impress this person, and like as far as relationships go, I think it's a little tricky with that too because it's like you're always trying to perform for that person like a circus trick in order to garner favor with them. I mean, like it feels like a big circus act, and I'm not a big fan of. I'm not too fond of people who actively try to seek attention in order to make themselves feel better. And maybe it's a coping mechanism, and I don't really know, you know, how they're actually feeling deep down. Maybe they feel just so stupid when they do it, or whatever. But I think it's kind of tricky. It's a slippery slope because I call these people arrogant, but there's parts of me where I'm arrogant all the time and I have no remorse for it. And it's like, well, put myself in their shoes. Let me walk a mile in their shoes. They're struggling with different things than what I'm struggling with. If they walked a mile in my shoes, they would struggle at the same time as me. So that's why I think film is beautiful because I think a film about a boring guy's life every single day would be very boring, but I think that's what's so great about movies because it can take a boring guy's life and change it a little bit, tweak it even a little bit, and it can become such a crazy movie. Like as an example, American film or American Fiction, sorry, that movie. He was so resentful towards this kind of culture that was being pushed as towards the black community where it was like, well, you have to talk this certain way and you gotta kind of this is the story about a real black man or woman or this is what it's like being black in America. But like I feel like Monk was really like struggling with that internally, and I don't think they spent enough time. And I think it was written intentionally where it's like, well, you kind of have to think for him because he was constantly clashing, and not on camera as much, but he was constantly clashing with himself because he wrote fuck or yeah, he wrote fuck. At the same time, he was getting a bunch of money and a bunch of offers, but at the same time, it was conflicting with his moral because at the same time, he was thinking, I think this is also true, that black people shouldn't be limited to what other white people think of them. They should be limited to nothing. They shouldn't be limited to something just because someone else has an opinion about what they should be limited to. There's no reason for them to be limited. And I thought that what threw him for a loop, but I think I skipped a little bit, but I think towards the end he kind of conceded because he kind of realized, well, this is how the world is. And he can't change it as one guy. And I thought that was also very significant. So that's my 2 cents. Closing out, I have a tennis match at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and it's like about midnight, so I gotta go to bed. This is my script. This is just a test. This is hopefully gonna be my first short film, if it ever works out. Hopefully, my second short film, I'll kind of break it down, is a story about a guy whose whole life is being portrayed through the phone, over the phone. He's talking on the phone, he's living his life on the phone. No, boss, you can't fire me. I mean, I'm telling you, you can't fire me. My whole life depends on this. Oh, hey, do you want to hang out? Oh, no, I'm busy. Blah, blah, blah. I went out last night. Well, in reality, he doesn't leave. He doesn't leave his room. But his whole life is being portrayed. He's talking on the phone. He's going through Zoom meetings. And that, I feel like it's kind of significant in our time and age because, especially for older people, if they ever want to get a job, they have to be in tune with electronics and they might not know how to use it. But also at the same time, it's just like keeping up with electronics and keeping up with every new trend and everything like that is very demanding. And what I want to highlight with this short film is that I think, okay, and this is really raw emotion. What I really want to tackle with this short film is how one person's life shouldn't just be dumbed down to a voice on the phone. That's what I'm saying because there's a person who's living just as much as of a significant life as another person. But what I really want to tackle with this short film is basically you're going into the life of this character. I don't know his name. Let's call him Joe. So you're going to Joe's life and this is how he's living. But it can be portrayed over the phone where it's like different parts of his life, different phases of his life. Maybe not time skips because maybe I don't have high enough production value for that. But maybe a really raw performance where it's like this guy's really struggling and only his emotions can be captured from the input of his phone. He's receiving information over the phone and it's making him feel a certain way. He never goes face to face with anyone. I feel like that could be poignant because there's a bunch of people who, not necessarily Zoom meetings, but they will never meet their boss because they work for such a big corporate company or something like that, or they work remotely. So maybe it'll work. I'm not entirely sure. I'm very creative and I hope it works out for me and I hope I'm very successful and I hope everything works out because I worry too much and I should stop worrying and I should start believing in myself to be able to create something so beautiful. I'm capable of making art and I gotta believe in myself. It's all about self belief. No one's coming to save me, and I kind of have to take myself off a sinking ship if I want to create something big and if I want to make my dreams a reality.